Hi, welcome back. Again, my name is Bruce, and I'm moderating right now the Parents Panel. These are the voices of the parents that have been incarcerated, and for me, one of the most poignant moments here in moderating today. I want to introduce two people that are very dear to my heart that I've worked with before, done incredible work on behalf of children and families in Washington State. And the first person I'd like to introduce is Paulia Gima, who's a veteran parent-to-parent coordinator for both Pierce and Thurston County. The other person I'd like to introduce, oh, and by the way, a wonderful, wonderful mother of 5 children between the ages of 1 and 21. The other person I'd like to introduce is Kimberly Mays, who's a veteran parent for the Veteran Parents Program, Children and Families of Incarcerated Parent Legislative Committee Advisory, and she has a wonderful, wonderful 4.5-year-old that she's an incredible mother to. And thank you both very much for being here. I think I'd like to kind of start, if you could just maybe very briefly, in just a couple of minutes, kind of explain how you kind of got into the system, or how you became incarcerated.
I'll start. The Thurston County Drug Task Force kicked in my door and pulled a meth lab and my 2 children out of my home, and I went to jail.
I was a known drug dealer and a user in Tacoma, and I was found, they caught me on escape, bail jumping, and with a large quantity of drugs on me. My last time that I was incarcerated. I was incarcerated over 50 times in my life.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, and Paula, for you, I want to ask a couple questions about when you were first incarcerated. What was it that you were hearing within jail about your situation? What were you hearing from the other inmates when you're incarcerated?
I was being told that now that CPS had my kids, I would never get them back, and that with parents in my position, with the drug use that I had done over the 18 years of my life, I was being told that it was a 1% success rate of being reunited with my children.
It's kind of hard on hope, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
And do you have a similar experience? Or
when I was incarcerated in Purdy, I was told by the other inmates that if I got into the baby program, the RPP program, that I would be able to keep my child. And unfortunately, since I had prior dependencies, I was not accepted into that program. So my child was taken from me at the hospital after giving birth.
For both of you here, and Paula, maybe you first, what would have been helpful to you in terms of staying connected and trying to get a good outcome here with your family? I mean, what would have been helpful to you in that experience?
Early engagement. If the social worker would have come and seen me in the jail and maybe brought a picture of my kids, or just simply come to the jail and told me that there was the possibility of me being able to be reunited with my kids and not come to the jail. By them not coming to the jail, it gave me zero hope. So the most important thing would have been if they just would have come to the jail and told me where my kids were and how they were doing and what I had ahead of me.
Okay. Well, let me follow that up a little bit. So early engagement, somebody coming right away and saying, this is where your child is, this is what's happened, that would have been very, very helpful to you.
Very helpful.
Okay. Well, if a social worker did show up, what is it that would have been helpful for you to hear from them?
That it would be possible for me to get my kids back. That it would be a lot of hard work, but that just that little tiny bit of hope, knowing that the possibility of me getting my kids back would have been very helpful.
Okay, same question to you, Kimberly. What would have been helpful to you?
It would have been helpful because my child, again, was taken right from the hospital after birth. Some communication. It was like 3 months before I even heard anything where my baby was, who had my child, or what have you, and then just to have the option of maybe having family members take my child so I can have more communication with them, that would have been helpful. I had very little dialogue with the worker. I would send letters, my counselor would call, but I had no response for about 3 months, and then she brought him down to visit me twice while I was there, but just more communication. And then also would have been helpful if some dialogue as to what I could do while incarcerated to overcome my lifestyle and parenting deficiencies in order to have a better chance when I got out to be reunited with my child would have been really helpful. Just more information what I needed to do, and just instead of just telling me we'll talk about it when you get out. you're sitting there, you're not getting out fast enough.
So I'm trying to imagine how isolated it must feel to be in jail and not know where your children are.
It's the scariest feeling I've ever felt.
Feel hopeless, you know, and you have a lot of time to really reflect on the negative of the choices that you made to get there. And so without anything very much positive to reflect upon in order to motivate you to start being active towards your own betterment, it leaves a lot of time for negative thinking, self-batching, you know. So it left me a lot of anguish and torment, self-torment, you know, mentally, emotionally, psychologically for myself, without any leads to for hope. I need hope as to what it's going to look like. What can I do?
Well,
Powerlessness.
let me ask you kind of the same question in a different way, and that is, what do you think? Now, for you, your child was an infant, right? Taken away at hospital, but suppose your child was older, and your child, I believe, was 8.
I had a 9-year-old and a 6-month-old.
That's right, 9-month-olds. But suppose your child was older. What do you think your children would need to hear from you, being the situation that you're in?
That we were okay. That we were okay, and that we were going to do what we needed to do to make ourselves better parents and the parents that they deserve to have parent them.
I had older children at the time, also at that time, and I would talk to those older children. They were with my husband's family on the phone, and so they did hear from me, and they wanted me to, you know, their hope was that I would be returned to them, and unfortunately at that time, while they were in the care of my in-laws, they were removed from that home for spanking. So it was just, but I know they needed to hear from me, and it helped them, but it was more tragic being pulled from that home, and then I didn't have contact. Because by that time, I'm in jail, I'm locked up, I'm still not getting any input on this child, and I just didn't have the resilient skills, the coping skills at that time to fight. I felt powerless and hopeless, and like the state was bigger, and there was no communication. So I just gave up. I got out, I didn't know where my other 3 kids were, and this one right here, and I hadn't worked on nothing the whole time I was there. Just had a lot of time to, I did some programming, but nothing that's pointing towards getting my child back. And so I walked in hopelessness and despair and powerlessness, and so I didn't do anything like that.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. So, what services would have been helpful to you?
A service plan from the department saying, these are the steps you need to take, what's available here. I was in state prison. What's available here? How can we tailor this to meet our objectives as a state agency? How can we tailor these things that are available at the institution to meet the needs that we have for you to overcome the issues that we find of your parenting and your lifestyle deficiencies, and and just a plan, and so that I have something to chip away at. So okay, success breeds success. So as being, I could have diverted my attention to be successful towards a goal. That would have been really helpful. Services.
So a case plan, a focus case plan, and then what can we put together? How about for you?
I agree with that. It was probably 2.5 weeks after I got out of jail before I was even able to get a hold of my social worker to find out what I could do to start on the road to my reunification. So I think that an earlier plan would have been a lot more helpful.
Now we've heard from a bunch of folks today already, and including the youth panel, and so. Now, incarceration is never a good moment. I can't tell I don't know anyone who's happy about being incarcerated. But talk about, if you can, if things within DOC, okay, could have been perfect for you in terms of getting moving, getting closer, getting your kids back, what would it look like while you're incarcerated? Was there anything missing, I guess, for you while you're incarcerated in terms of, let's say you did have a case plan, what kind of things could have been going on there that would have been helpful?
One particular program that's available now with the Department of Corrections is the something to do with behavioral modification program. It's can't think of the name.
DBT?
I can't think of it, but it has to do with changing your thinking, beliefs, and your values, which drives your behavior. That would have been huge for me, because it all started with my thinking and values, my behavior. So,
I think that some sort of drug and alcohol treatment within the county jail would have been helpful. Maybe some parenting classes, because I know that a lot of the other inmates within the jail would have benefited from the parenting classes and the drug and alcohol classes in there also.
Okay.
From the last I heard, though, inside the county jail there are drug and alcohol classes.
Good.
So that's something that has changed since 5 years ago when I was up in there. But parenting classes, I think, would have really been helpful. Because to tell you the truth, when I lost my kids, I didn't know how to parent sober.
So, and also a big difference between county jails and state system. Okay. One last question I want to ask you, and that is, when did you start experiencing hope?
When I see my kids the first time.
What was it like for you to see her?
It was neat. Tracy laughed at me. First she cried, and then she laughed at me and told me how fat I was. But she gave me the hope, because she told me that it was going to be okay.
For me, it came when a community service provider in our community came in, and the guards told her, "Why are you wasting your time on Kimberly Mays? She's hopeless. She's been in and out here so many times. You're wasting your time." And she didn't give up on me, and she stayed connected with me when I got out, and helped me believe in myself.
Okay, so somebody from a community provider.
It was a maternity case manager from the community who, without funding, took me under her wing and mentored me.
Okay. So before I open this up for questions, any last things that you think folks need to hear about parents who are incarcerated? And what might be helpful to them or their families?
That people can change. I think that's the most important thing that people don't realize, is that people can change.
And that human beings are our most valuable resource. And there's so much untapped resources of people who are locked up, that if we can give them the right support and motivation and help them, not give them a handout but a hand up, that we'd have a huge asset resource for our state, our communities. And also that people deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. You know, their worth is separate from their behavior. And that's a huge, the behavior was bad, but the people are valuable. So that's.
Can you guys take a guess at how many people you've helped get through the child welfare system since you've been clean and sober and gotten your kids back, dependency dismissed? Do you know how many people you've helped?
Couldn't even venture to guess, probably hundreds.
And also, that's what we're talking about outside. When society invests in people like ourselves, there's a saying that when you've been forgiven much, you love much. So people like us who've overcome some terrible things due to our own choices end up giving back 180,000%. So it's a threefold, if not quadruple, investment return, because we're going to reach out and try to help others engage, and we have more of an effect because we walk the walk and we talk the talk. So I do an outreach on my own in my own community and there's 30 different adults who are now either in college, all clean and sober, working and living good lives, some single, some parents, and that's just besides the parent-to-parent program. It's just that love and wanting to give back and to help. You just can't beat that.
Now, aren't you trying to get your MBA?
MPA.
I'm sorry, Kimberly?
Yeah.
MPA, absolutely.
Yeah, I want to be able to maybe be an influence in some of the policies that govern our marginalized populations.
Maybe that's already started. Okay, I want to open this up for the audience here. Do folks here have some questions that we'd like to ask Kimberly or Paula?
Kimberly, I've heard you talk in the past about how to make all kinds of different services client-centered. Can you talk a bit about how a social worker, DSHS social worker, can work with the parents, the children, etc.?
Right now, there's a new practice model that's being initiated in the department that's similar to my hopes and aspirations all these years, and that is that the social workers will work with the parents and work with them to find solutions that works for them individually and for their families, versus laying out a list of services to providers that may not even be culturally relevant or socially, economically relevant to the client they're trying to serve. My biggest challenge I see right now, working with the department on several different ventures, is that the service providers are still not either culturally relevant or economically or socially relevant to the population that they're being asked to go. So it's hard to be successful if you're not having services articulated to you in a manner that you can apply to your life.
Okay, any other questions? Okay. You guys, thank you so much.
Thank you.
You are absolutely fantastic. My pleasure. Thank you.